Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mount Shasta Weekly Zohar Study Group. I'm very happy to see you all here tonight. For those of you who came in person, and also for those of you who are joining us online, so welcome. So before we start, I'd like to read a very quick introduction, how we approach the study, for those of you who join us for the first time. Applying the power of the Zohar. The Zohar is a book of great mystical power and wisdom. It is universally recognized as the definitive work on the Kabbalah, and it is also so much more. The Zohar is a wellspring of spiritual energy, a fountainhead of metaphysical power that not only reveals and explains, but literally brings blessings, protection, and well-being into the lives of all those who read or listen and pursue its sacred texts. All that is required is a worthy desire, the certainty of a trusting heart, and an open and receptive mind. Unlike other books, including the great spiritual texts of other traditions, the Zohar is written in a kind of a code, through which metaphors, parables, and cryptic language at first conceal, but ultimately reveal the forces of creation. As electrical current is concealed in a wire and cable, before disclosing itself as an illuminated light bulb, the spiritual light of the force of the Creator is wrapped in allegory and symbolism throughout the Aramaic texts of the Zohar. And while many books contain information and knowledge, the Zohar both expresses and embodies spiritual light. The very letters on its pages have the power to bring spiritual wisdom and positive energy into every area of our lives. As we visually scan or listen to the Aramaic texts and study the accompanying insights that appear in English, spiritual power is summoned from above, and worlds tremble as light is sent forth in response. Its primary purpose is not only to help us acquire wisdom, but to draw light from the upper worlds and to bring sanctification into our lives. Indeed, the book itself is the most powerful of all tools for cleansing the soul and connecting, to the light of the Creator. As you open these pages and listen to this text, therefore, do not make understanding in the conventional sense your primary goal. Although you may not have knowledge of Aramaic, look or listen first to the Aramaic texts before you read the English translation. Do not be discouraged by difficulties with comprehension. Instead, open your heart to the spiritual transformation that the Zohar is offering you. Ultimately, the Zohar is an instrument for refining the individual soul, for removing darkness from the earth, and for bringing well-being and blessings to all the dwellings of this planet. Its purpose is not only to make us intellectually wise, but to make us spiritually pure. Let there be light.
Amen.
So, welcome everybody to our class. Today, the name of the portion of the week is called Vayeshev. And Vayeshev, it's coming from the word in Hebrew to sit or to settle. And for those who've been following us for the last 3 weeks, we have kind of 3 interesting portions that follow one each other. So we first had the portion of Vayetze, which means to exit. The second one was Vayishlach, which means to send out. And this one that we're studying is called Vayeshev, which means to settle or to sit. Sit or settle. And we know that there is no really coincidence in any of the teachings of the Torah, even more so in the codings of the Zohar, why those 3 particular portions are one after following each other. And we're going to study that today. That's going to be one of the main themes of our class tonight. So on the Torah, or what people translate the Bible, the narrative that we've been following is the story of Yaakov. And Yaakov, we know that is a code name that represents the Sephirah, or the realm of beauty, or Tiferet in Hebrew. And before I jump into the text and kind of go through the story, I want to kind of remind us why are we really studying those, first of all, those names of those patriarchs. Like we know Abraham, he stands for the Sephirah of mercy. Then we study about Isaac, who stands for the Sephirah of Gvura, which means judgment or power, which is the left column, or severity. Then we study about Jacob, which is the column of the middle column, which is called Tiferet. Today we're going to be talking about Joseph, what Joseph represents. Now, if we ask ourselves what's in it for us, we're not like we know that the Zohar is not about studying historical events. We're not here to discuss the lives of this person or that person. The purpose that we're studying those codes that we're learning from the Zohar is to understand what's the meaning for us, what's in it for us for our life. This is what it's all about. And we know that the Zohar is, the purpose of the Zohar is to give us the opportunity to be creators in our life, so we can be effective to fulfill our purpose in this reality. We know that we talked about this a lot in previous classes. We're not here to discuss what's the meaning of life, but it's actually to understand what is the purpose of our lives as human beings. We know that the two most important aspects we discussed in the Zohar is our desire, what we call in Hebrew is Ratzon. Ratzon, which is written like that. Ratzon. Ratzon, which means desire. And the whole purpose of studying, understanding the difference between the Ratzon is how we transmit this Ratzon into Tzinor, which means a channel. A channel. This is really the essence of Kabbalah, because we know, for those of you maybe join us for the first time, Kabbalah means to receive. We're here as vessels that is constantly on a process. Hi, welcome, Michael. Really the essence of our spiritual work is to constantly expand our desire. We know that Abraham, he represents the desire to share. Isaac is a code name for the desire to receive. So the purpose that we're learning those spiritual tools and those code names that we use as the patriarchs, so we can learn how to receive, which is the left column, for the sake of sharing, which is the right column, which is Abraham. So when you learn about Jacob, Jacob embodies the connection to that understanding of how we balance between the two. Are really the most successful human beings that we can study in the world of commerce, in entertainment or technology, whatever field you desire to explore, they really master that ability of balancing between the desire to receive and the desire to share. It doesn't matter if these people are greedy or not greedy, the fact that they're actually able to hoard a tremendous amount of success in one field or another, it means they know how to use energy. And again, we're not here to judge anybody's character, particular in that field or the other, but it's all about how we learn to really harness energy. So when we spoke about Jacob the last few weeks, we explored those three different portions, which are, again, like, these are all codes. When we spoke about Vayetze, which means exit, we learned that one of the attributes or the characteristics of ourselves as spiritual beings that are operating in this physical realm is that we learn how to recognize the presence or the influence of the evil inclination. What is evil inclination in Hebrew? Evil comes from the word Ra, which means Ratzon Atzmi, which is, I'm going to write it right here. So, in other words, the desire to receive for the self alone. So this is really the example of the negative aspect of being a spiritual person, that you just want for yourself, basically selfishness. And the code name in Hebrew is Ra, which means Ratzon Atzmi, or Rasha, which means Ratzon Shel Atzmi. So why it's important for us, hi, good evening, why we discuss the importance of the attributes of all those different patriarchs, because we are ideally on a spiritual path, we constantly would like to expand how much we desire in this reality. So when we spoke about Jacob, when he spoke about the context of Vayetze, I'm going to talk about it very briefly, that Jacob was actually, in a conscious way, was able to recognize where he still have those negative attributes. So each and every one of us, where we can recognize where there is the evil inclination, and we can consciously go, and even if it requires from us to go to a very, very dark places within ourselves, within our psyche, within our soul, and go and bring light and illuminate those areas, because there are a whole point as spiritual beings that we can transmute. None of us is only have positive thoughts. None of us can say that we don't have some desire for the self alone. We all have negativity. So when we spoke about our purpose as human beings, we come here so we can transmute those areas. Some of us have more negativity in one areas, one from the other. So it's not the same for each and every one of us. But the whole point is that we're transmuting them. So we spoke about Jacob, we spoke about exiting, so we can exit being in a certain consciousness. Even if you're on a very, very high spiritual level, you can still go down into a level of seeing your negativity. You're never sitting on the laurel leaves, so to speak. When we spoke about Vayishlach, we spoke about different aspects, how we deal with negativity in our lives. And why we always talk about negativity? Because our success as spiritual beings in this reality is basically have to do with how we can operate within the realm of free will. Because when we have no free will, everything is perfect. We have no work to do. There is no free will for us. There's nothing for us to choose. But when we are dealing with some challenges, and again, we spoke about two kinds of challenges that comes to us in mercy, that we are sort of, we have the upper hand, and we're using tools to overcome those challenges. And for those who are not engaged in any spiritual teaching or wisdom, those negativities can come in a very negative form of very harsh judgment that we ideally would like to ignore. Not to ignore, to avoid. That's the right word. Sorry, to avoid. And why we have different portions each and every week? Because we know that every week there's different energies. So we're giving the sort of the spiritual vaccine before things come into our life. So we always have the upper hand. That's the whole point of this, studying the Zohar, sort of like a spiritual GPS. So we know each and every week we have certain lessons or wisdom to harness so we can become more successful. So we spoke about to exit, to send out, because in the story of send out, we're talking about how we deal in negativity by sending out certain energies, but also how we prepare ourselves to deal with very, very negative even threats that may be the result of past lives, even past relationship, etc. Now, in the story of Jacob, he overcame a lot of different difficulties. And again, I'm talking in the context of the narrative just to give us kind of the context of the discussion. We're not, again, to discuss any historical events or any personal stories of that biblical character or the other. But when we spoke about Jacob, he overcame a lot of different negativities. He was able to establish, so to speak, a very secured domain for himself. You know, properties, family, children, etc. And the words Vayeshev gives us a hint about, okay, he settled. So we may ask ourselves, okay, we do so much spiritual work. When can we settle? That's kind of the question that comes to mind. Can we settle and we can just, settle down, build our home, start a family, to build a business, whatever. Everybody wants to settle in a way. But what we're going to learn actually today, that if we are really committed to the spiritual understanding, we are never settled. We never settle. That said, there are times for us to do the pause for rest. Of course, there's always that time for rest, for recuperating, for recharge. But as long as we are here in this physical realm, there is no real retirement. This is really one of the things that we're reminded this week. When you're on a spiritual path in this physical reality, we're not here to retire, we're here to do work. Okay? And the purpose of us being here is, first of all, so we can enjoy what we do. That's why we want to choose line of occupation work, something that we really enjoy. Because even if we sit and if you are a person like you are an artist and you can sit and you paint for 15 hours, you don't see that as work. You actually enjoy that. So time really flies by. So when we are engaged in this kind of form of work in this life, we enjoy it. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges, but we can handle them with much more wisdom and ability. So what is, first of all, who's Yosef? Yosef, the code name. Yosef, again, on the narrative aspect, he was Jacob's son, and he was his favorite son. But on Kabbalistic terms, on the code, Yosef is the code name for the Sephirah of Yesod. Yesod means in Hebrew foundation. And if we go back again, we learn about the tree of life. We know that this lower Sephirah is what we call Malchut, which means the kingdom. So Yosef is the funnel. It represents the code name for the funnel from which our physical reality draws its sustenance. Okay? Where do we draw that sustenance into our lives? We know that when we breathe, where does the breath come from? Like when our body digests foods, where does this energy or this intelligence to digest food comes from? Everything is like in perfect order. There is some source from which all this energy is coming from. So our connection, this is what we're going to be discussing today, to the Sephirah of Yesod, is basically is a reminder for us of our lifeline. That's why we can never settle, even if we think that we have all the physical comforts. So we have whatever number of houses a person can imagine, numbers of cars, whatever money in the bank. These are all physical things. And this is within the realm of physicality. So what happens to Yaakov in the story, that when he decides to settle, more tragedy starts to happen. Like his son Joseph, he's being kidnapped. In other words, on the inner level, what it represents, we can achieve a place in our lives. And this is what kind of the flag, the red flag that we're reminding this week. We can achieve a level of tremendous financial success, family, children, whatever it is we want to desire. But once we become settled, like our desire is not growing anymore, it's basically we're losing our connection to the upper worlds. This is kind of the danger we can fall into. We decide to settle, we're settling, and we become actually, as a result, subdued by the forces of physicality. In other words, we experience death. Okay? Now I want to talk about the opposite, because in Kabbalah we learn about the principle of immortality. So I want to talk about immortality for a second. So I'm not talking about physical immortality, because physical immortality is the effect of other consciousness that brings about physical immortality. I'm going to talk about different kind of immortality, which is immortality of our mind. If each and every one of you think about one area in your life, for example, you're a writer, okay? So you can feel, you can experience immortality in the field of creative writing. Like you can be a writer that thinks, like you sit and you want to write a new book or a new story or whatever you write. And your immortality can be expressed in your realization that there is no limit to how many stories you can write. There is no end to the stories. Or if you're a musician, you can just sit and close your eyes, or whatever process you do to come up with new music, you can think, wow, there's endless possibilities. So each and every one of us have that connection to that endless. This is what we call the Sephirah of Yosef. So I think pretty much each and every one of us, we can find that area in our lives that we have that lifeline, whatever it is. It can be our creativity, it can be a connection that we are very much accustomed from a very young age to be part of this connection. So our connection to this realm is really that gives us a good hint, or the reminder that immortality can actually be a very real force in our lives. Okay? It actually something that means that we are drawing sustenance in certain area from the endless, and there is no limit to that. Okay? So the opposite of that, we might become settled, like Jacob. With this portion, Jacob, he's settled down. He stops desiring elevating his spirituality. So this is what we want to avoid, and this is what the theme of this week teaching is about. Okay? Anybody, by the way, want to give an example of their connection to that realm of immortality in one area or the other? Anybody wants to give example?
For me, for instance, just creating stuff in the kitchen is
excellent
I wanted to say the same. It's like reading my mind.
Yeah.
It's just I'm always trying new recipes and
Right, exactly.
alternating stuff, and I'll take my grandmother's recipes and change the ingredients to be more healthy, you know, and just play around with things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my
Do you ever
mentality.
reach a place and say, you know, I'm out of recipes? Do you ever reach that point?
There's no such thing.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You see?
That's immortality.
That's immortality right there. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, it's artwork and painting.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like endless ideas and color combinations and patterns and symbols. It's just like endless.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's endless. It is. It is
Yeah.
the endless. Thank you. And
Yes.
you want to give example too?
Well, you cover the cook side and you cover the art side. This is both I'm doing. So, what else? I mean,
Yeah.
I would go with love. I mean,
I was gonna say.
love. You know, it's just because some people say, "Oh, my love is gone. I'm not in love anymore. There is no love. So there is a dead here." But from my point of view, there is no such a thing. Love is eternal. Love is immortal, and we always can be in the space of love. You know, even though we sometimes disappointed or sometimes we don't have physical person to love, but still, if there is no immortality in love, that for me it's a death.
Thank you. So as we can see, the connection to immortality, it transcends physical reality. It's something that we form in our mind. This is like really the attribute. No matter what we have in physicality, that connection to immortality is really our lifeline. And we know that physicality is basically an empty shell. There is no life in physicality unless the sustenance is received from above. And more so for us as human beings, that's what we call in Hebrew holchim, which means we're walkers. We walk. We're not yoshvim or omdim. We're not standing or we're not sitting. Doesn't mean we cannot sit and rest once in a while, but our purpose is constantly to be evolving.
Journey. It's a journey.
It's
When you
expansion.
walk
It's a journey.
journey.
Yeah, it could be call it a journey. It could be an expansion. You can call it constantly climbing up. There
When
is
you're
a-
sitting, you cannot call it journey. Oh, I'm sitting. I'm in the journey. No, I'm driving or walking
We
or
can
going to the
journey
destination.
with-
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
a
word
journey.
of like we said, the name of the person is Vayeshev. The word Shev comes from the word Shabbat. Okay, Shev, and then we have Shabbat, the Sabbath. So we know that the word Shabbat and the word Shev are coming from the same root. Basically means to sit still, to rest. Now, if we speak about settling down in a not very positive way, why we have Shabbat? So let's talk about that. Now we know that the purpose of us studying Kabbalah is to master the realm of the seven. So we know we have the upper Sefirot, but we live in the realm of those 7 dimensions. That's why we have the 7 days of the week. Now if you look at the 7 days of the week, we have, I'm going to just use numbers. So we have the first day, we have the second day, we have the third day, we have the fourth, we have the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, so I want to focus on those two days. We know we learn in the Kabbalah that when we tap into the energy of Shabbat, which is a period of time of 24 hours, which starts on Friday sunset until Saturday sunset. This is the time of the week that we're advised not to engage in work or going out or to be in a proactive mode, but actually we're taught to sit still and to receive nourishment. Now let's see what those numbers or days, how those days they pertain to the Sefirot. Okay, so we started the counting of the Sefirot from Abraham. Abraham stands for is a chariot for mercy. Abraham is Sunday. I'm going to use a shorter version, Abe. Okay. The second one this is mercy. This is judgment. It's Isaac, which is Monday. Tuesday is Jacob, which is Tiferet. Jacob. Wednesday is the Sphira of Netzach, which is it's Netzach, which is Moses. Thursday is Hod, which is Aaron. And then when we reach Friday, guess who's Friday? Yosef. Yosef is the Friday. This is Joseph, and we're gonna learn why Joseph.
Is it the same Joseph with the stripe?
Yes, yeah. The stripe. I forgot the word, the English name. Kutonet jacket. Let's call
Nightgown.
a jacket.
A gown.
A jacket. Let's call it a jacket. So Joseph is has to do with the Sephirah of we said foundation. It's Friday. Saturday is King David, which is Malchut David. Now, the relationship between those 2 days is very, very important because why? Again, I'm not talking about the Jewish traditional understanding. Why do we connect to the energy of Shabbat? Because we want to draw energy from the upper worlds to bring into physicality, so we can draw it to the days of the week, etc. So that's why we connect to Shabbat.
Filling the batteries.
Filling the batteries, yes, exactly. Now, like we know that.
I mean, energetically, we're talking.
Energetically,
about.
yeah, we don't
just
work,
physically,
we don't do
yeah.
physical activities that we do on normal days, because we want to receive sustenance. That's what the Yosef is the Friday. So when we talk about connecting to that realm of Yosef, which means we also understand that in that connection of Friday we receive the nourishment. Okay, this is on a basic level.
Free meal.
It's not a free meal.
We worked for it all week, right?
No, you work for it not because of Shabbat. You work for it because you do your work because that's what you're here for.
Mm-hmm.
The Friday gives you energy to draw it to continue the week. So it's not. So
Okay.
Friday is
So it's
designed.
kind of storage.
The
of-
Shabbat
Yeah.
is given to us is an opportunity to replenish our energetic storehouse so we can carry it into the week. Okay, because we're here to do work. Again, everybody, we have our own lines of work. So the understanding of Yesod of Yosef is detrimental for us to maintain that connection of sustenance into our lives, whether it's our creativity, our livelihood, finances, relationship, anything that is important to us. We ideally, on a spiritual path, we know that there is no end to that. It's an endless connection. That's what the Yosef is about, or that connection of the funneling of that force. Okay. Now, another understanding is about the word Yosef in Hebrew. It means to add. Lehosif in Hebrew means to add. Why is it about adding? Because we're adding energy into physical reality. We're adding by whether we do spiritual study, whether we share things, we do good for others. We're adding value and energy into this reality. Like we know, we come here as human beings to be co-creators in this reality. We are the agents of co-creation in this realm. In order for us to be effective, to be co-creators, we want to have the constant connection, so to speak, to have that constant sustenance, so we can be successful in our work. If we're not co-creators, we're slaves. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is kind of the distinction we're going to be also studying today. Okay, let's go to the Zohar and start reading from the Zohar. Anybody have questions so far? No? Okay. All right. וישב יעקב בארץ מגורי אביו, בארץ כנען. רבי חייא פתח ואמר, רבות רעות צדיק ומכולם יצילנו השם. ככה זה, כמה מקטרגין איתלי לברנש מיומה דקדוש ברוך הוא יהב בנשמתה, בהי עלמה. וכיוון דנפק ברנש לאווירה דעלמה, מיד הזדמן להשתתפה בהדי יצר הרע. כמה דהתמר דכתיב, לפתח חטאת רובץ וגומר, וכדן השתתף בהדי יצר הרע. Okay, let's go to the translation. And Jacob dwelt, that's kind of how it opens in the Torah. And Jacob dwelt in the land in which his father sojourned, in the land of Canaan. Rabbi Chia opened a discussion with the verse, many are the afflictions of the righteous, and Hashem, or the Creator, delivers him out of them all. Come and behold, how many enemies a man must face from the day that the Holy One, blessed be He, gives him or her a soul in this world. As soon as a man or woman comes into this world, the evil inclination is immediately ready to join him or her. As it's written, sin crouches at the door, because that is when the evil inclination associates with him. So a few things that we are told here. So when we talk about the evil inclination, we know that it's a real force. And when we're discussing the story of Jacob, it's working. Yeah, it's too
Oh my
too
God.
cold.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it.
Please.
Excuse me.
72 please.
It's 80.
It's 80?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or
We
maybe
cannot
we
feel
make the
this.
fan stronger.
Yes, probably it's
Okay. Let's put it. Okay. So what we learned that when we come into physical body, into this physical reality, the evil inclination joins with us immediately. When we talk about the crouching and the opening, is basically when we come out of our mother's womb, that evil inclination comes with us. And we talk about evil inclination, that is represented by the desire to receive for the self alone, which is physicality. We constantly have those desires of the body that are challenging us. So the more we learn to master, to overcome those forces, the more we become successful as spiritual and as human beings in this reality. The more, yes?
Well, even as babies, you just give until they're old enough to take care of themselves.
Exactly.
And, you know, so
Yeah.
there's few years where you just
yeah.
give
Mhm.
for their needs
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
So
It's a great example. It's a great example because that's what we do. We in Kabbalah and Judaism, we learn about the bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah, at the age of 12 for a girl and 13 for a boy. That's the time that we start to learn how to discern our free will. That's the initiation into that place that we actually start to learn to recognize those forces. Because like you said, when we're young children, babies, they just want to take. There is no desire to give. It's completely selfish. Completely selfish.
but
I mean, that's how it's
it's
designed. Yeah.
innocently.
Of course, yeah.
innocently,
There
yes.
is no evil agenda.
Until they learn different.
Hopefully,
Right.
some people never learn. So
There is in Bar Mitzvah, the father is blessing his son and says, Baruch shepatarni mi'onsho shel zeh, like, bless that I'm already done with you. I'm like, now you're on. I don't, it means that they don't take their children's karma anymore, the boy or girl or their own karma and working for that. The age of 12 and 13.
yeah,
Before that,
Exactly.
we respond,
Yeah.
like energetically. But in Bar Mitzvah, Bat Mitzvah, the parents say, okay, I mean, not done physically supporting the child, but done with the ceramic, ceramic connection
Well,
between
it's
them,
not a-
something like that. I don't know.
yeah. They're basically what it means. Baruch Sheptani Moshe Shezeh is that when they say that
Yeah, that's the bracha.
prayer in a bar mitzvah, but mitzvah it means now you have to start practicing what you've been taught until now, and we're here to support you as parents. But now it's time for
To
you
practice.
to start practicing and to using what we learned, to use the discernment between good and bad, evil inclination. So that's what we are reminded here.
Yeah, as long as
Now
the
let's
parents really gave them the tools.
Let's continue. ותחזה דהכהו דה בעירי מיומה דהתילידו כולהו נטרי גרמייהו והרכין מן גו נורה ומן כל אטרין בישין וברנש מיד עתה לערמה גרמי גו נורה בגין ליצר הרע שערי בגבי ומיד עשתה לערכה בישה. Translation. Come and behold, this is true. From the day of birth, beasts protect themselves by fleeing from fire and evil places. When a child is born, a man immediately flings himself into the fire because the evil inclination dwells within him and immediately prompts him to follow the path of evil.
The game is on.
So basically, if you look at animals, in average within one day they stand on their feet and they can run. If you saw like a deer or a cow born, within a couple of hours they're on their feet, they can run. And they'll never be attracted to fire. Now, if you look at a human being, it's completely the opposite. It takes them at least a year until they start walking. And if they see fire, they are drawn into the fire. So what this verse is teaching us that we are born with this evil inclination. Animals don't have evil inclination. Believe it or not, they don't have free will. Animals are programmed to be a certain way. They don't have free will. Only human beings, that's what the Zohar is teaching us, that this example of animal that is already have this programming. It's not discerning between good and bad. It's good. It's already only good. Only humans have this force that we have constantly discern between those parts. That's what really allows us a progression on spiritual path. Let's continue. וכמנע דכתיב טוב ילד מסכן וחכם ממלך זקן וכסיל אשר לא ידע להיזהר עוד. טוב ילד דהו יצר טוב, דהו ילד מיומין זעירין עימי דברנש, דהה מתלייסר שנין ואילך כמה דהיתמר. Translation. For we have learned that it says, better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king who knows not how to take care of himself. Better is a child because a child represents the good inclination. It has been with him for only a very short time. Since the age of 13 for a boy and 12 for a girl, and onward it is with a man or woman, as we have already learned. So what we learn here that a person, like it's the extreme example of Yaakov, he reached a certain age that he became, so to speak, like a king, but not, the Zohar is using the word a foolish king. So what happens is basically he's losing his discernment between those two forces. So we say it's better to be like a young and like a young child, basically, because we may have less mileage, so to speak, in our work, but there is more pure connection. So we're reminded to reestablish this kind of connection, what that is coded by the name of Yeled. Okay. Now a couple of more things that what we learn here, what really the reminder is never to settle in our desire, because we spoke about being in a spiritual path is we want to transmute our ratzon to tzino, from the desire or desire to receive to desire to receive for the self alone to desire to receive in order to share. Okay, so this is something that we are reminded not to settle in this in whatever we do in our lives. So what we also reminded here that as soon as we settle, that's when the evil inclination have a hold on us. That's when we start settling our mind. That's when it's, oh, I just want to retire.
Yeah, when people say, okay, I achieved everything, I'm done, I just want to just be on my couch and watch TV.
Yeah.
You know, I just have everything, right?
And actually, they did a study that for many years that they found out that people who retire and they basically stop working, they die after a very short time.
Unless
they have some
Unless they do
habits or
unless they do some kind of work. Yeah.
purpose.
Some purpose, some kind of a desire. That desire is really the life force. So, first of all, in spirituality, there is such a thing as retirement. You never retire.
Sure.
As long as you're in physical body, you have work to do. So this is really what we need to remind ourselves. We're never retiring. Doesn't mean you cannot make billions or whatever amount of money, and you can stop working for money, but you can work for some other things.
For fun.
So the money that you receive, you have purpose for that. You have a lot of things that you can use that money to benefit others. That's really our purpose here as human beings. We're not here just to, of course we're here to enjoy and to have fun, absolutely. But we're here to constantly evolve with our desire and be a stronger force of influence in this reality. Ratzon lashpia, which is in Hebrew. Yes?
Well, you know, with this old system that is just showing its true face and stuff, with how money's circulated and all the leaders and stuff like that, and how we want to build a new structure, the new earth, or city of light, or whatever it looks like. What came really strong to me the other day when I sat with a friend that is older, and she just retired from being a nurse, 40 years in a hospital, working like crazy. Crazy shift and stuff, and we were talking about Social Security. She's like, I'm not giving up my Social Security, I just worked for 40 years, you know. And that it showed me a cycle that the system we live in created, where people been putting a lot with the, you know,
Expectation.
Well, more than that, with the thought that one day I'm gonna have that chance to just sit down and take care of myself, but they're not doing it on a regular
That's the
basis.
slavery
You
system.
know? It's a slavery
Totally.
system.
Exactly.
Totally, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That
Yeah.
the system really created that, where it's not happening in day-to-day life necessarily. It's not evoked. You know, how many zombies go to work and sit in front of their desk every day and don't have that desire and think, oh, one day I'll retire and I'll do all those things. And I think that's maybe that settlement, you know, of like, oh, the money, you know, I work hard now so I can enjoy the money later. But, you know, it's like,
that's not.
there's a disconnect.
It is a
with
big disconnect.
alignment.
Thank you. It's a
Yes.
wonderful example, Mera, because I think big portion of humanity are trained to work for a living,
Programmed, I
to
would
make a
say.
living. We're programmed to work because you have to make a living. Kabbalah says you're not working to make a living. The fact that you're alive, you already earned the life force. Nevertheless, you're here to work. But really, what is the wise way to approach this life so we can still be
When you
very...
say work,
Yeah,
excuse me,
hold on,
what
hold on, hold on.
you mean?
Yeah. What I'm trying to explain is that how do we align our desire to receive and we become effective so we can receive, so we can share. This is really what it's about. And the secret is the understanding of the power of Shabbat. The Shabbat is a weekly reminder for us how we tap into this energy. So what happens on Shabbat is that the desire of us, the vessel, to receive is aligned. It's a perfect, that's why we light two candles, because it's like two soulmates. It's a union between two forces. One of the vessel that receives the energy, and one between the vessel and the light that fills the vessel. So it's a complete union between those two forces that happens on Shabbat. Every Shabbat, this is what happens in the universe. Okay? You can say why it happened on Shabbat, because that's how the system is designed. Like we have 7 days of the week. If you go to other planets, there's other number of days of the week. But in planet Earth, we have 7 days of the week. That's how the system is designed. And that's why we have corresponding those different sefirot to each day of the week. Mercy, chesed, gvura, tiferet, etc. Mercy, judgment, etc. Until we reach those 2 days that really what are really for us the secret. So the more we practice that connection, because on Shabbat we don't do anything. In the endless world we don't have to do anything. There is no effort we have to do. There's perfect union between us and the vessel. So the more we taste or we connect to that, we have also different tools. We can use prayers, lighting candles, enjoying the Shabbat, celebrating the food and everything. The more we connect to that, we can carry that into the week. So understand that this connection is happening all the time. Even if we have to wake up in the morning, we have to work 12 hours a day, or maybe less, or maybe more. But that connection to the world of sustenance, when we talk about work, means we're doing actions. A work means you have to do certain physical action. Now, let's explain what physical action, why we have to take physical action. Now, human being does not wake up in the morning to move a finger unless there's what's in it for me. The what's in it for me is the desire to receive. Like I said in earlier classes, the philosopher Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. It's not true, because animals think too. What we learn in Kabbalah is, I desire, therefore I am. So what really drives us in this reality is the things that we desire. Now, you might say, which is true, when we desire something means we have lack. Like, I desire a glass of water, which means right now I don't have water, so I desire the water. So the entire design of physical reality, there needs to be some kind of a lack so we can fill it in.
Always.
Like we learned that lack is the mother of necessity, is the mother of invention, right? How those great inventions come into manifestation, there is lack, and there is no that particular thing that will solve the problem. So problems are created so we can solve them. So the entire physical realm is designed around that. We constantly have those lacks so we can create desire, so we can receive. That said, we want to create that lack from a higher place. Because what happens to Yaakov, he settled down and then his son was kidnapped and sold into slave in Egypt. Okay, that's an extreme example. Imagine whatever situation in your life you might feel, I'm good, I made such amount of money, I have my home, I have kids, I'm good. What can I ask for more? When you come to this place, this is like the most dangerous place to be. We learn Kabbalah.
But some people say, I am not greedy, so I'm not asking for more. See, this is many people think it's selfishness to ask for more.
I'm not talking about money. I'm
no,
talking about
no money. Just family.
Some people can be happy with, let's say $100,000 a year of, let's say they have whatever savings, they have investments, so they have cash flow coming $100,000 a year. For them it's a lot. For somebody it's going to be $10 million a year. Doesn't matter. What I'm saying is a person can come to a place of settled or complacent. Like, I'm good. What do I need ask for more? This is what we learn in Kabbalah. This is death right there. because you become complacent by physicality. Or you can say, I've studied so much, I'm already in such a high spirit place, I'm just going to teach people and I'm just going to share what I know. Even that is a place of complacency because you're not expanding. Even if you teach people, it's great. But how in
You
some
continue learning
you have
and
to
studying.
keep studying. You have to keep connection to the Sphira of Yosef, the Yesod, to add. Yosef means to add, Joseph. Okay? Well, I was last night in an event and somebody spoke about she's experienced the presence of...
Last night in
last
the
night. Yeah, not everybody knows who we are, but I'm
This
saying is
event.
there was a lady who she spoke about how she experienced the presence of an entity called Joseph. So I said, well, it's interesting because the name of Joseph, it's a code name. I know it's the name of she meant to the father of Jesus, that Joseph she was talking about. But this Joseph was actually before. That name of Yosef was created. But again, we're not talking about here about families. We're not talking about here about patriarchs and historical events. Yosef is about adding value into this reality. You can always add value. There is no end how much value you can add. There is no end.
So what significant for this week about the study of Yosef?
Like
How
I
we
said,
can
the
use it?
significance, the first thing we're talking about here is it's to stay away or be warned, because the Kabbalah is always give you the sign of warning or
Before something
the red
happens.
flag before you might fall into this place.
Right.
So this week is to awaken the desire to constantly to be in a form of enhancing your desire to receive for the sake of sharing.
It's interesting because in the month of Sagittarius, there's the tendency of Sagittarius just being a child and play and not to take responsibilities. So maybe there is some energy like that this week, this month. So that's the reminder. Okay, you can play, but don't forget. Don't forget the real thing.
Well,
Maybe.
that can be one interpretation, but also Sagittarius can be also a very straightforward reminder. So it doesn't matter what sign you are. Not always you might be tuned to what's going in the universe, because we learn Kabbalah that each and every month we tap into the energy of that month. So in this month we all can be Sagittarius.
Right.
But even the energy of Sagittarius, you can also be complacent as a Sagittarius in this month, in this energy. You can be, I'm so good, I'm just keep doing my thing and I'm not gonna, maybe there's lack of desire to expand.
Right.
Doesn't matter the energy of the month. But it's a reminder of, because we're entering to the month of Capricorn
Oh.
very soon, which is it can be like very heavy energy. It's an earth sign. So there's always what we call a spiritual vaccine, or the reminder before energy shifted. But nevertheless, it's a wisdom that we carry throughout all the time with us. Doesn't matter what month we are, okay? So let's continue.
Rolando Toro says, I love, therefore I am.
Who said?
Rolando Toro.
Rolando
Yeah.
Toro, who is it?
He's from Chile.
Yes.
He created the biodensa system.
Okay.
Yeah. It's,
Love?
Well, love is a
Love
form.
did that.
Well, love is a form of desire, because you want to receive something, whatever it's like when you, first of all, if you love yourself, that you cultivate a desire of love in yourself. So when love is a force that you want to draw that force. Like you have to, like you don't just wake up in the morning like, I just love myself. You can in some moments, but sometimes you wake up and you hate yourself. And then you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to hate myself, I'm going to be depressed. It can lead to do very negative things. Or you can wake up in the morning, if you're Kabbalist, say, today I hate myself. Let me acknowledge that I hate myself today. Now, let me cultivate the desire to love myself. When you have the desire, you create a vessel. And like we
This is
learn,
a free choice here.
it is.
Yeah.
But it's always based on unconditional love. You don't say, I love myself because my eyes are brown or because I have 100 likes on my post on Facebook. It's unconditional. But nevertheless, it's a desire. So love, but love is based on a desire to feel some kind of vessel, and then you can share it, of course, with your partner and everybody. So it's a great example. Yeah. So let's continue. אשר לא ידע להיזהר עוד, להזהיר להכתיב, אלא להיזהר, בגין דאי הוא כסיל, ועלי אמר שלמה עליו השלום, והכסיל בחושך הולך. דהה מסוסיתא דחושך כעתיה, ולית לי נהורה לעלמין. Further it reads, who knows not how to take care of himself? It is not written to take care of others, but to take care of him or herself. Why? because it is foolish about it, Solomon says, and the fool walks in darkness, because it comes from the refuse of darkness and will never have light. But he or she who does not know how to take care of others is not yet considered foolish. So the idea of taking care of others, it means that we have the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. So we might say that a king, we spoke about the negative example of a king, that he might be foolish, that he already established the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. But nevertheless, whatever realization, we might lose it along the path, because it says, the beginning of the portion, and Yaakov Yashav, and Jacob was sitting. But we learned last week that his name was changed to Israel. So why we don't beginning this portion with the name of Israel?
Yes,
it means
right.
we could. It's a warning that we could all regress in
We
our
can lose
connection.
it.
We can lose it, exactly. So it's a daily reminder for us when we wake up in the morning, where we evaluate where is our desire. So
Yes.
if we chose to be a successful artist, it's a decision, it's a commitment.
Yeah.
So if you decide to be an artist, so I have to make I defined maybe a goal. I want to have a gallery show within a few months. So you commit to paint a painting a week or a month or whatever. So you commit to something, and you constantly working towards a goal. Once you achieve that goal,
Right.
then you can say, okay, my next goal is I want to publish a book, or maybe I want to do a group show, maybe I want to participate in the Venice Biennale or something like that. You keep and expanding your vessel. It's never
So you
something.
never settle.
You
like
never
in this
settle.
Week. You don't settle. You cannot be successful and settle.
And this is actually this is definitely the one of the attributes of Sagittarius.
Right. They never
Okay.
settle.
Like if
Huh?
yeah, and I was looking at there was an article about Picasso yesterday, and Picasso was constantly reinventing his styles. He never just stuck within
Right.
one style. He was trying this and that until like pretty much the last day he was doing art. So you never, whatever your form of expression is, there is no end to that. If you enough have this attribute of the desire to constantly expand.
Actually, when you achieve something, then your real work is starting, right? I mean, a successful singer or artist, right? You constantly evolving to
Well,
achieve more, because
I
if
don't
you
want
say,
to give.
okay,
I don't want to say names of artists that I can hardly see how they evolve. But
well, yeah,
no.
we don't talk about them.
But I know some of them, like again, you can find musicians that they're constantly evolving. Like U2, for example. U2, they're being around. Huh?
Madonna.
Madonna, it's a great example. They
Yes.
constantly explore new styles.
Yeah.
But you can find other musicians. Again, I don't want to say bad names because I may make
No,
some people
it's not
angry.
necessary.
Some musicians that they just keep doing the same thing again and again. So
Fine.
it's two extreme examples, and it doesn't matter what line of work you are. It will bring you eventually more fulfillment if you explore new horizons. Keep growing yourself. Never be satisfied.
So if you go to the literal story of Yosef of this week,
Mhm.
right? That he was jailed. Is
Mhm.
it in this week that he was jailed for 12 years?
It is, but it's,
So what I'm meaning is that even in jail, he could be a victim or he could be a king. So he didn't settle. He wasn't just sitting and waiting 12 years till he's going to be free, right? Even in jail, he became a king. He was powerful. He was a leader.
It's a good example
So,
because Joseph,
yeah.
he became a slave in Egypt, and because he maintained, like you said, it's a great you remind me, because
Yes.
I didn't want to go too much to the details of the story.
But it
since
give us some
since
idea,
you mentioned that,
yeah.
yes, he was sold into a slave in Egypt. Now, if you know historically in Egypt, a few thousand years ago, if you're not Egyptian, and it's not like the Egyptians that live there today. It's a completely different race of people. You would be treated like a slave. So even if you would reach to a very high level in this country, you will be treated like a slave. Now, Joseph was in the jail for a long time. Even in the jail, he maintained his connection because of what he have learned from his father. That's kind of with the narrative side.
First, he was a slave, and he was seduced by this guy's wife, and then he was thrown to the jail. So
He was in jail.
from slavery
He was
to
in jail.
jail.
He was in jail twice.
Right.
First of all, the jail is a slave, and then he was given a job to be assistant to one of the ministers in Egypt, Potiphar. And then he was tried to be seduced by the wife, and then he was thrown to the jail for 12 years. Again, I don't want to go into this.
Yeah, but
It's not the
connected
point
to
I'm
this
talking about. What I want to discuss is we might be in places in our life, in our reality, that we don't feel it's the desirable outcome of what we want. And then we can also become complacent, sort of like giving up on the dream. So his connection, because when we maintain this connection to the upper worlds, we draw the hope, the sustenance, the inspiration, no matter where we are. Like Nelson Mandela was in the jail for 28 years. He never gave up on his connection to the vision. So that connection can be our vision. It can be a big vision. But again, when we have a vision, it's also, are you willing to pay the price?
He actually became more famous because he was in the jail. Nelson Mandela, the same like Jesus.
But what, it's not important the famous, it's what important, like he never gave up on his dream. His dream or his vision was always to remove the racism and the apartheid in South Africa. He never gave up on his vision. So that, in fact, in spite of the fact that he was in jail for 28 years, he maintained his connection to the vision, which is beyond what he was going through.
Never settled.
Never settled.
Yeah.
So the never settlers have another aspect. Thank you for reminding me of this example, because it's the opposite example. So let's say you're not in a place where you want to be in your life. Still, are you willing to settle for what you have, or you're not going to give up and keep pushing for where you want to reach? Because once you reach there, you can settle there, or you can keep going further beyond that. Okay?
That's the thing about settle. It feels to me like, I also looked it up definition. So it's like when there's an argument and then you settle. So basically, when you settle, both sides need to find the middle way. So you're not necessarily getting exactly what you wanted. And so, like you said, it's like, are you gonna just stay where you are, even though it's not really what you wanted? Maybe out of comfort because it's comfortable. Kind of going back to that system, slavery system.
Yeah.
Or you're not gonna settle and you're just gonna go for what you are. Quit. Become entrepreneur, or just like find a different way of being that will take you up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thank you. Great example. So let's go to verse number. How are you doing with the time, Maya?
It's 9.
9.
9. Okay. Verse 20-21. תחזי וישב יעקב בארץ מגורי אביו. מהי מגורי אביו? כדע מגור מסביב. בכל יומוי עבד החל ועבד בתחילו. וישב יעקב בארץ מגורי אביו. רבי אלעזר אמר, דהתקשר ויתב, בהוא אתר דהתאחד בחושך. ארץ מגורי אביו דייקה, בארץ כנען. התקשר אתרה באתרי. מגורי אביו דה דינה קשיה. בארץ מגורי אביו, כמה דהתמר ההוא דינה רפיה. דהי היא ארץ, דהתאחד מן דינה קשיה, ובי התיישב יעקב והתאחד בי. Let's go to the translation. Verse 20. Come and behold, it is written, and Jacob dwelt in the land in which his father sojourned. He asks, what is meant his father sojourned? And he replied, terror, in Hebrew it's magor, from every side, because he was anxious and afraid all his days. Rabbi Elazar said, and Jacob dwelt in this place that was unified with darkness. The land in which his father sojourned means precisely this panic and fear of his father Isaac. And again, we're going to explain the codes. Who is the left column? In the land of Canaan alludes to a place connected to its proper location, which means that the Nukva is called land. When she is connected to the left column, who has the father of Yaakov, she is called the land of Canaan. As it was said, a place attached to its proper location, which means that the land of Canaan is connected to the land of the father sojourning, which is the left column. His father sojourned is harsh judgment, as it is the secret of the left column of Zeir Anpin. The land in which his father sojourned is a land of weak judgment, as we have learned. This is land that is joined with and emerges from harsh judgment, which is the left column. Jacob dwelt in and held on to this land. So when we talk about Jacob, he sojourned, or he connected to this land of his father, we know that Yaakov is here, is the middle column. His father is Isaac, which represents the left column, which is judgment. So which means when we lose the balance between the desire to receive and desire to share, when we lose this connection, we dwell in very negative place. So we might have different reasons why in our lives we may lose this balance. So the Zohar is reminding us that connecting to that attribute is extremely important. Our life depends on it. Because the word knal in Hebrew comes from the word kniah, surrender. It's like you basically surrender to a certain aspect of desire that is very limiting for you. Okay?
Just to receive.
Just to receive, or be complacent in what the things that you receive are very limited, especially it's physical things. Okay? Now let's continue. אלה תולדות יעקב ויוסף וגומר, בתר דהתיישב יוסף ביעקב, והזדווג שמשה בסהרה, כדין שרה למעבד תולדות, ומן איהו דאבד תולדות, ההדר ואמר יוסף, דהה ההוא נהר דנגד ונפק, איהו אבד תולדות, בגין דלה פסקין מימו לעלמין, ואיהו אבד תולדות בהי ארץ, ומיני נפקין תולדות לעלמה. These are the generations of Jacob, Joseph. After Joseph settled in Yaakov, and the sun, which is Zeir Anpin, mated with the moon, which is the Nukva, he began to produce generations. And who is he that brings forth offspring? The scripture continues saying, Yosef, for the river that flows and comes out of Eden is Yesod, that is designated Yosef. It is he or she who is the progenitor of the offspring, because his or her waters never cease to flow. So what we learned, there's few terms that we're using here. First of all, we know that this is we learned this is Malchut, this is Yesod, foundation. Zeir Anpin is those seven, is the entire system of the seven. So what we're learning here is that what this verse explains to us, that this reality, the physical reality, vitality, life force is dependent on the flow from this Sphira of Yesod. So it's using like the word of a wellspring. That's what we spoke about, example in your life. Where do you have that internal connection in your life, in that one particular field? Creativity, music, writing, art, whatever
Zohar.
it is. Zohar, exactly.
For me,
Even the
biggest,
Zohar. Yeah.
biggest it's a Zohar. I know it's like never-ending water. I can always be in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Yosef is basically the river that flows, that brings the sustenance from the upper worlds. And on the narrative level, Yosef, he became the second in command in Egypt. He
Right.
became so powerful because his ability to use those forces. So he became the second, and he got the seal of Pharaoh, and he was ruling all the food.
The slave who became actually
That was
Second-
imprisoned.
yes,
Yeah.
Jewish.
Hebrew.
Hebrew,
yeah,
not
Jewish.
Jewish.
That time. He was
Hebrew, a slave who was in jail, and then obviously he's becoming the second,
Yeah.
man in Egypt.
Exactly. So when we talk about Joseph ruling Egypt, it's basically when we are controlling the funneling of energy into physicality. Because Egypt represents the world of physicality. When we say Eretz, Eretz means Ratzon, desire. So when we are harnessing our desire to receive into this funnel of energy, to this reality, we become the rulers of physicality. So when we know how to funnel the energy, then we know how to harness the energy. Because sometimes we have to, it's not just we just give energy, but also we know when to hold into the energy. We don't just waste energy. Like the Zohar using a lot the example of a man's sperm, for example. Like how it's important for a man to maintain their sperm, because wasting this energy, it's a big waste of life force,
Yeah, it's a
basically.
life
That's one
force.
example.
Yeah.
And that's why in the human body, the Yesod is the sexual organ. Because that's we have two very powerful openings in our body that are basically connecting us to higher realms, which is our mouth and our sexual organ. Because both openings can create and can destroy. Both openings. So that's why we always constantly advise what we speak and how we manage our
And
sexual
what
energy.
you put inside.
Like what we put inside, what comes out of our mouth too. What we expose our eyes, etc. And Yosef represents the sexual energy. Because the sexual energy
He
is
overcome the sexual
Yes.
temptation.
temptation. He was tempted by the wife of Potiphar, which was a very powerful minister in
Beautiful
Egypt.
wife.
And because he refused her, he was thrown into jail. She blamed him in rape, which he did not do. But
This gave him actually the title of righteousness.
yeah, but we're not talking about that. It's not about. It's not my point. My point is that what we learn in the Zohar, that our ability to funnel sexual energy is also very, very important. It's how we use this energy in this reality. It's like we said, it can be a force of creation or destruction. Okay?
So, because only he, Yosef HaTzadik, no Moses HaTzadik, and no Abraham or Jacob HaTzadik, only Joseph got this title of Tzaddik, the righteousness,
Well-
only because he overcome this temptation.
But the
of,
whole point is that it's not
sexuality.
just because he's the only one who was able to do that. Each and every one of us, we have the opportunity to become a certain chariot by learning those different energies that we talk about. Each and every one of us, we can harness the energy of mercy, become like Abraham, or harnessing the energy of judgment, the left column, like Isaac. So there is the Joseph within each and every one of us. Doesn't matter what is our gender. And this is a reminder this week to harness these powers that we have, so we don't, first of all, settle with what we have. So we use the energy consciously for creation. I'm not talking just about procreation of children. I'm talking about creation in this realm, to be very effective forces of creation in this reality. When we know that the availability is endless, what is available for us. Okay? Let's go to 25. רבי חייא פתח ואמר, לכן אנשי לבב שמעו לי חלילה, לאל מרשע ושדי מעוול, כפועל אדם ישלם לו, וכאורח איש ימציאנו. תחזי, כד ברא קודשא בריחו על מה, עבד לי על דינה ועל דינה יתקיים, וכל עובדין דעלמא אינון קיימין בדינה, בר קודשא בריחו בגין לקיימה על מה ולה יתאבד, פריס עלי רחמי, ואינון רחמי מעכבי לדינה, דלה ישתצא על מה, ועל רחמי יתנהג על מה, ויתקיים בגיני. Translation. Rabbi Chia opened a discussion with the verse, therefore listen to me, you men of understanding, far be it from El to do wickedness, and from Shaddai to commit iniquity. For the work of a human being shall he or she pay back to him, and according to his or her ways, he or she caused to befall every human being. Come and behold, when the Holy One, blessed be He, created the world, He created it by judgment. It exists upon judgment. All worldly affairs exist according to the principles of judgment. Nevertheless, to support the world and prevent its destruction, the Holy One, blessed be He, spreads mercy over it. This mercy tempers judgment, so that it does not put an end to the world. Thus the world acts according to mercy, and endures due to it. So what we learn here, that this reality, we are here to force to sustain the reality by action of mercy. In other words, there is, when we talk about judgment, which means there is limitation, there is a boundary to something. Like if you have no ability to control those two realms of receiving and sharing, the energy in this reality is not balanced. So what we learn here, that our ability or our job here is to transmute the negative energy of the judgment by sweetening it. So when he said that a person is paid according to their deeds, what it means is that if we only act in ways of judgment, we're not funneling mercy into this reality. So we are prone to be affected by the laws of cause and effect. So how do we go beyond, or how do we subdue the law of cause and effect? We become a higher force of mercy in this reality. We are adding more value into this reality, and we draw more mercy to ourselves. Like we learn in Kabbalah, when we become a channel, so we receive in order to share in this reality, and we are constantly creating a conduit of energy, we're less prone to the effect or the impact of cause and effect in this reality. That's what we're told here. Okay, does it make sense?
It's very deep. Can you give me an example?
Well, okay, let's give an example. I want to read from what I read here.
I
So,
mean, give us. I mean, because I don't want to.
so let's say we are.
It's really important.
Let me think about an example. Let me think about. Just give me a second. In order to bring sustenance into this world, we want to be like a force of creation. So if we see an opportunity to do something good, for example, okay, and we can do something about it, but we don't. So what we do, we are prone to the laws of cause and effect. Let's say you're walking in the street and you see a very poor person, and they ask you for $1, and you have $1, but you decide, from some reason, not to give them that $1.
No,
So what happened?
It happens many times.
How about someone falls down and you choose to ignore it?
Something like that. So what happens when you are, so your choice not to do something, you can always choose between mercy and judgment all the time. Each and every
Okay.
moment, you
Okay.
either act in a way of sharing, or you hold it back. Now, not always we can be in force of sharing,
Yeah.
but the more we bring this energy into the world, we're funneling actually the sustenance into this world. Because what sustains the world is mercy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are, that's why it's called Yosef, we're adding that energy into this reality.
להוסיף.
Leosif. So when the more we act like that, it can be with our time. Doesn't mean like anytime somebody will call you to volunteer, you volunteer, because you have to put boundaries too.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have the opportunity to act in this way, you're adding more sweetness of mercy into this
Yeah, it's
reality.
like a bank account. Then you just always just want to add it there without
Exactly.
thinking, oh, but I have enough this month. I don't need to do. No, if you have opportunity, just put more,
Yeah.
do more, because then you
Tipping the scales,
right,
tipping
tipping
the
the scales
scales,
for
yeah.
better and sweetening the judgments that exist naturally in the world.
Exactly.
Okay, something
Like
like
example, like Jane Fonda, for example, she could, I don't know where she lives, but she lives very comfortably. She's very wealthy. She saw what's going on in Standing Rock, and she decided to fly there. And she arranged a big Thanksgiving meal there for people.
She donated
a lot of money.
homes.
Like, she doesn't have to do that, but she
Right.
chose to do something about it. And this is an example of funneling the positive energy of mercy.
Right.
When you volunteer your time, you volunteer your resources, you do something for the betterment of humanity, to help. Doesn't matter what side you are. Obviously, she is in the side of really wants to support life, to support justice, and to do good. So the more of those actions we do, or we act in that way, we are establishing the energy of, that's what we call Yosef Tzaddik. Tzaddik, it means righteous. But it's not from righteous to be like, I'm saying like righteous things. It's actually be in a form of doing goodness, so you add that value into this reality.
Yeah.
That's where we funnel that through actions. Okay? Let's continue. Okay, verse number 34. וחולה בגין ההוא מזלה דנגד ונפק, והתחבר בהוא דרגה להשתלמה בי ולהתברכה מיני, ועל דעה קולה במזלת עליה מילתה, ועל דעת הנינן בני חיי ומזוני, לאו בזכותה עליה מילתה, אלא במזלת עליה מילתה, דהה בזכותה לאו איהו אלא עד דהתמליה והתנהר מן מזלה. Translation. It all depends upon mazal. In Hebrew, it's translated into luck. Mazal is luck, which actually is
Or
an
a
odd.
sign.
It's also constellation, yeah. It can be both. But also, what the Zohar is teaching us, mazal is actually the sphira of Yesod, and we'll see why. Which is drawn to and attached to that grade, the nukva, for her to be perfected and blessed by it. Therefore, all depends upon mazal. We have learned that children, life, and livelihood do not depend upon merit, but upon mazal. There is no merit until the nukva is filled and shines from mazal, which is yesod. So when we talk about nukva, nukva is a female tense. Nukva, we know that physical reality is left column, is the vessel that wants to be filled with sustenance, with energy, with forces. So when we talk about the mazal comes from the word zal, which means flowing, nezila. Okay, zayin lamed. Now, so the sustenance of this reality, it depends on that. Now, let's talk about that number we discussed 3 days ago.
Oh,
And I'm going to explain how that pertains.
the
Have
magic number.
Are you guys familiar with the number 137? Remember this number?
Okay, now we are talking.
137. Okay?
Donald Trump.
Huh?
Donald Trump.
No.
No.
It's not Donald Trump.
Oh, that was 4.
That's different. It's a different number.
That's number. It's whole 10 classes we can study.
So I'm going to draw the tree of life.
Last time?
Hmm?
Said that number last week.
No, I did not.
I don't
think
remember
I
that
did.
number.
I think I did.
Remember?
But
I'm going to draw that. So we learn Kabbalah, first of all, the numerical value. So this is like a very powerful number in Kabbalah, and a lot of actually, also in physics, they have been studying that number that appears in many different areas of scientific study. In Kabbalah, this number actually is very, very significant. I want to talk about how that relates to Yosef today. Okay?
Oh, it was 127 years.
Yeah, that was 127. But this actually, today we study about 137. What's that? Oh, thank you. So the number in Hebrew words is Kuf, Lamed, Zayin. So So we talk about Zal or Nizila is the 37, okay? So why this number is important? Because first of all, like you said, the numerical value of the word Kabbalah is 137. So Kabbalah gives us actually the secret of endless sustenance into this reality, of the source that brings energy into this reality.
Now, the numerical value of 137.
Yeah, it's Kuf Lam and Zal, yeah, 137.
That's also
What's the
Kuf.
numerical value of Kabbalah?
That's what I said, 137.
You just write
It's
down.
the same.
Yeah, the same.
Kabbalah.
Kabbalah is 137.
Yeah.
Kabbalah.
Let the people know, because this is the numerical value of Kabbalah, 137.
So the word Kabbalah is actually 137. So let's see how that pertains to what we've been talking today. So we learned that Yesod is right here. This is the Sefirah of Yesod. So the verse I was just reading, this is Malchut. Okay? So we spoke about that we live in a system of 7. Okay? So this is the system of 7 that have the number 137. This is the 7. This is
Physical.
okay. So the number 3, it's Keter, Chokhmah, and Binah. These are 3 realms that actually influencing the lower realms of the 7. So the system of the 7 receives its sustenance from the system of the 3. Now, the system of the 3 receives its sustenance from the system of the 1. The system of the 1 is what we call the Ein Sof, which is the endless Ein Sof. Or endless.
Scientists researching this number for years already. They're addicted and fascinated by this number.
Yeah, if you Google 137 in science,
Yes,
you will find a lot of writing about it. But our point for this discussion is like when we know that we are in physical realm, the Malchut is the consumer. This is the power station. The 1 is the power station from which energy flows down into the system of the 3, etc. It goes down here, which is Yaakov is right here. So there are different connections between those realms, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, into the realm, actually it's from here as well. There are 32 of those connections. 32 Netivei Chokhmah, it's called 32 paths of wisdom. That's the middle one. That's Jacob right here. But nevertheless, the sustenance of this lower realm, the physical reality, it starts with the Sefirah of Yesod. So Yesod is the Zal, is the Lamed Zayin from that.
Okay.
Okay? So the Zal from the word Mazal, Mazal comes from that 37. Okay? So it's not just our, again, it's not like about our livelihood, it depends on it, but really our connection to the endless, depends on our connection to the Sefirah of Yesod, to the Yosef. Because how much can we add into this realm? Endless. And our point is constantly expand our vessels so we can receive more from the endless. Because it goes through from the main power station, those 3, and it receives from the 1, from the upper one, which is called Ensof, from the endless. Mm-hmm. The endless is something we cannot define. It's unlimited. But in order to bring into the world of matter, which is a limited reality, it has to go through filters. Like you cannot connect your iPhone to the power station because it's going to get exploded, it's going to get burned. Even us, yes, Maya?
Excuse me, what I'm saying is,
That's
the secret of redemption and physical immortality. Now, why? Because this 1 and 3 and 7, it's disconnected usually between nations and people. It's disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
If we as a human beings can create and bring it together, 1 and 3 and 7, we achieve immediate immortality and redemption.
Well, the immortality, like we said, it starts with our consciousness. Because once we realize that we all receive sustenance from the same source, with this understanding that you or a person in Iraq or a person in Syria, we all receive the sustenance from the same source. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to be an Israelite? We know that an Israelite is when you create the direct connection to the source. Okay? You can either be an Israelite, you can be a slave. There is no in between. Mm-hmm. When you're an Israelite, you have a direct connection to the source. So you have establishing that through the Yesod to the upper realms, all the way to the 1, to the Ein Sof. Now, if you're choosing not to be an Israelite, you're subdued to other forces. That's what's called the Elohim. The Elohim are forces of nature. So some people, they worship the sun. Some people, they worship that plant, or they worship that rock, or they have many things that people worship in this reality. It's a choice. So for these people, their sustenance coming from that source. Like people who worship the sun, which is represented, by the way, those Sephirot also correspond to planets. Okay, so this is the Earth right here. This what planet here is the moon. Okay, that's the moon right here, and this is the sun. So I'm just going to focus on those three. I don't want to talk about all the other ones. Okay. So what's the attribute of the moon? The moon does not have light of its own. The moon receives its light from the sun. Now the sun, where does the sun receive its energy? From the upper forces, upper source. Now the Earth receives some light from the moon as a reflection in the night, right? We in ancient times they would rely on full moon to do certain journeys, to go outside, because they would have the light of the moon in the night, in the darkness. The sun is the source of light in the physical reality, but we know that even the sun, the sustenance of the sun coming from higher sources. Why are we talking about all these different realms? Because we are reminded that there is some kind of a hierarchy of forces that's going on here. So when we talk about not to be settled, don't be settled with a very lower source of energy.
Yes. So now when we see all the map, it's just, what is that?
Don't settle. I mean, even if you, some people, they worship, some really, a movie star, some people, or some, they worship a certain, like some people, for them, science is their source of authority. Like for them, science, whatever science says, that's the truth. Because they can only prove certain things by measuring certain physical phenomena with certain tools. But what about the things they cannot measure?
That's why they stack the science with this number, because they know they're getting there, but they're never going to get 100% closer.
Because science is limited by the tools of what they can measure.
However,
sorry. So when science cannot measure something with a tool, doesn't mean if it's unmeasurable, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Because whatever we can measure and we can define in science, whatever is capable to be defined, which means it can be measured. But what if we, in 10 years, we develop a new tool that can measure something we could not develop before? The whole point is that we want to expand our awareness that there are forces that keep flowing into this reality, are limitless forces, they're endless forces. They don't have limit, there is no limit of the energy that can flow here. But the whole point is to how we tap into those forces so we can funnel them into this reality to create goodness in this reality. This is the whole point. You want to say something, Matt?
No, just saying that probably we're disconnected. We are stuck in the realm of 7.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing.
Of the
even not 7. Most people are stuck in this realm. And if we compare that to the levels of soul that we discussed in previous weeks, one is a different color. This one, it presents the level of the nefesh, which resides in the liver. This is the nefesh. Now, those upper ones, all those 6 is ruach. Ruach. This is neshama.
Ruach is in the heart.
Ruach is in the heart, yeah. So this is ruach. This is neshama. This is chaya. This is Yechida. Now, like we said, Nefesh.
No, it's going to be okay.
Okay.
It's just little, yeah.
So we say Nefesh. We have 3 levels of soul potential in our body: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Now, the Nefesh resides in the liver. The Ruach resides in the heart. The Neshama resides in the head. Now, Yaakov was the only one who was able to reach the level of Chaya, which is very, very high level. Most humans, the level is only stuck in the physical, in the lower animal self. Their desires are to survive, to make a living, to have good sex, to have drink a few glasses of alcohol. I'm generalizing, but for a lot of people, this is their desires. It's only around physical things. So the level of the soul they're able to manifest in their life is very low, no different than animals, which is represented by the physicality. Some have the desire to ascend beyond those things. They can achieve the connection of the Ruach, which resides in the heart. and those who do even more work, they connect to the neshama. So when we light a candle on Shabbat, the candle is the nun. In Hebrew, candle is ner. Ner. So the nun is this from the nefesh, and the ruach is the resh. You see? So nefesh and ruach. So when we light a candle, we're connecting between those two realms. That's what the candle we light on Shabbat. The two candles. So one is the nun and one is the resh.
Yeah.
We're connecting between the nefesh and the ruach.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started my spiritual path, and I would just talk with family members and stuff, and I remember there would be like, oh, you're becoming a ruchnikit. You know, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about spirituality, you know, because it's a spirit. And I would contemplate on that and think, well, we all have a spirit. It's how we connect to it, right? Or different ways to connect to it. And so now I get it, how it's like, oh, it's like going above our survival and, you know, everything we see, where there's actually, you know, higher realms that we can connect with, like you said, with the science. And what's interesting is that a lot of scientific discoveries been known for centuries in India, for instance, and stuff like that. You know, that Buddha been teaching for centuries. Where it's like, scientific discovery, blah blah blah, and then only then the masses know about it. You know, because that's their source of.
That's interesting you mentioned, because this is what I wanted to mention, that there was this genius from Vilna. Did you ever heard about the Gaon
Vilna?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yes, in many, centuries
very wise
ago.
Kabbalist. His name is the genius from Vilna.
And he actually said, one of the secrets he said about this number, and it's connected to that, he said that when Kabbalah and science going to merge, that's going to bring the final redemption. Because what is science? It's the physicality. They are dealing with physicality. Kabbalah is upper worlds.
Yeah. Kabbalah is actually very exact science if we know how to use it correctly.
Exactly.
Like
right.
if we, for those of you who are interested to study the history of Isaac Newton, the scientist, he was studying Kabbalah, and he attributed all his big discoveries to the teachings of Kabbalah. Like you can Google Isaac Newton Kabbalah.
Right.
Isaac Newton has a copy of the Zohar. So he was reading one day about how the light is broken down through 7 colors. That's how he discovered the prism. He put the light through a prism and he broke down to 7 colors. 7, like we spoke about the system of the 7. There's a system, there's design. So science is really catching up with these things that we learn in Kabbalah.
Even sacred geometry, we have a flower of life on our wall. Yeah. And usually I only see 6, but then there's a circle in the center, and I was like, oh my god, even that is the 7 circles.
Yeah.
In the flower of life.
And the 7 actually expands, because we have the system of the 7, then expands to 10. But then actually we realized, we were reading in the other week, that we have not 10 sfirot, we have 22 sfirot. Yeah. Like we learn about chakras. Like if you Google chakras, we actually have 22 chakras.
Not 7.
So the Pleiadians, the teachers, we have 12 chakras, which correspond to 12 strands of DNA. We have only two active strands of DNA. So for most people, there's only even just one awareness of activity within this realm, which is just the physicality. So once we're able to activate all of those, and it starts with our awareness that we actually have the potential to activate, we can funnel energies into this reality are beyond our imagination. Like, how much can we funnel into this? Like, really, what I want you to get out of this class is, how much can you funnel into this reality? Endless. It only depends on your desire to receive, because without desire to receive, you cannot draw. But for you to draw something, first of all, you have to establish a vessel. The desire is the vessel. Now, the question, I'm going to repeat something I said before, is that the desire for the self alone, or is the desire to receive for the sake of sharing? Like some people who do, they use the teaching of Kabbalah for black magic, not the Zohar. You cannot use Zohar for black magic, but some people use the teachings of Kabbalah, what we call practical Kabbalah, to use witchcraft, which is desire to receive for the self alone. It's very limited. So what we learn here, when we're drawing energies into this reality, funneling energies for the selfish desire, it's very limiting. you can funnel forces which can be very powerful. However, if they are utilized only for a left column, they can be very destructive, because you're not creating circuitry of energy. Because if you just want to draw power so you can rule other people, there's so much you can contain, because you're not sharing the energy. See, by default, it's going to burn you out, because there's so much current that a device can use. But if you keep funneling, if you're funneling the energy, there's continuity. This is what this is about. So the connection to the Yesod, it's important, but also with the understanding that we're actually funneling the energy for the sake of sharing. It's very important, because Yosef, he was a very powerful man in Egypt. He was very wealthy because he knew how to use the energy of the money and the sustenance, because they went through like a very difficult drought. But he was able to distribute all the resources in a very, very wise way. He didn't just, I'm just going to keep the resources for myself. You see? So the funneling of the energy must be coupled with their realization that we're funneling it for the sake of sharing. Okay? Does it make sense now?
That's frustrating, because here we are sitting here. We actually have a map of a solution, really seriously. And how, I mean, we don't need to, I mean, not all the people in the world are going to know this, but even go to the critical mass and to share with people, or even it's Kabbalah, giving, right?
No, receiving. Kabbalah is receiving, yeah.
So many people, they refuse to receive this knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's why we kind of stuck in the astronomy. We have a solution, we have a remedy, but people are like, no.
Well, first of all,
they want their social security check.
Exactly. Some people, that's the level of desire.
Just see this map and see that 7 realms, 3 and 1. We just by consciously connecting it together. That's it. That's it. But there is a separation here.
There is a separation. Well, first of all, we're doing our share because we're sharing this information with other people.
Right.
So we know that the Kabbalah, the teaching of Kabbalah, is that by design giving us the tools, the wisdom, and the knowledge to funnel endless energies into this reality by default. This is the purpose of Kabbalah. So we can, like I said, Kabbalah means to receive. In order for you to receive, you have to cultivate a desire, because the universe cannot give you something by force. Because if it gives you something without you earning it, because let's say you want to be a very successful actor in Hollywood, okay? So if you study like the stories of successful actors, they went through a lot. Or big producers, they start with the mailroom. Always they start like as a mailroom, and then they go up. But they had, like, even the biggest one of the biggest producers, Brian Gazer, for example, is a big producer in Hollywood. He started in the mailroom. But even when he was in the mailroom, he wanted to be a producer, a big producer. So his desire was what was keep raising him up on those levels, keep growing, because there was a desire, there was a vision. He did not settle to be a mailroom person.
He had a plan already.
He had a plan. Yeah. But nevertheless, he never lost that connection.
Right.
And that connection is the link between the 1, the 3, and the 7. Because when you maintain the connection, you constantly receive. So when you maintain your connection to the vision, the universe will guide you. Okay, this is what you need to do. Maybe it tells you, okay, tomorrow go to this place. Maybe you don't know why, and you go and you meet that person that helps you to move to the next level.
But all of that was for his receiving, a desire for receiving for himself, or is he also sharing it with others?
Good question. If you study his movies, I think you get a good idea. I think his movies
what kind of movies does he do? Can you give an example?
He produced some of the movies of I forgot his name. I don't have examples, but he's relatively quality producer. Brian Gazer is a good quality producer. You can find producers that produce garbage.
Yeah.
Because all their desire is to make money, and they don't care what is the impact of their films on people's, because films they affect consciousness. They can pollute or they can nourish. So I think Brian Gazer is actually a good example. I just don't have
Brian what?
Brian Gazer.
Yeah.
So Wachowski brothers also, they had
the Wachowski brothers.
They studied Kabbalah for years, and then all the metrics and everything came from that knowledge.
I mean, I don't think there is right now any. What time is it, by the way?
We have 20 more minutes.
20 minutes. I pretty much almost every spiritual teacher I respect, they mention the matrix in some point in one example, because it's such a great they use such a great storytelling
Genius.
to explain the connection between physicality to the upper worlds. Because science cannot prove you this connection. They cannot. They can only prove you the physical embodiment of certain phenomena.
Just limited.
It's very limited. But Kabbalah tells you, don't just rely on what you see with your eyes, because science can only rely on what you see with your eyes. Like if you go to mainstream scientists tell you, there's an upper force, there's a higher force. It's beyond what you can imagine. What he would tell you, prove it. Like they spent billions of dollars to build that molecule or particle accelerator in CERN in Switzerland to prove that there is a particle of God. And after 20 years of construction, they could not find that proof. Because they're trying to measure something which is unmeasurable.
They're getting better. We have a Kabbalah student, Billy Phillips, that he is invited already to give a lecture in NASA. He's invited actually second time. So already going to NASA and giving lecture about Kabbalah and all this. And they got fascinated by that and invited again. That's already like there's something changing. We are getting closer, science and Kabbalah is just getting slowly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big...
So
big life.
Brian Grazer, he likes Tom Hanks. He did Splash, Da Vinci Code,
you
Apollo
already found
13,
it.
Yeah.
and A
Brian
Beautiful
Grazer.
Mind.
Yeah. Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind.
Quality movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Quite.
Yeah. Very high quality producer. So let's move to verse number 42. פתח ואמר, הנה ישכיל עבדי ירום ונישא וגבה מאוד. זכאה חולק הון דצדיקיה דקדוש ברוך הוא גלילון ערכי דאורייתא. למהך בהו תחזה היקרא רזה אילאה איהו. הנה ישכיל עבדי והוקמוה. אבל תחזה כד ברא קדוש ברוך הוא על מה? עבד לה לסיהרה ועזער לה נהורה. דהה לית לה מגרמה כלום. ובגין דעזערת גרמה התנהרה בגין שמשה ובתוקפה דין הורין אילאין. Translation 42. He opened the discussion with the verse, Behold, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. Happy is the portion of the righteous, to whom the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed the ways of the Torah, so they may follow them. Come and behold, the verse, Behold, my servant shall prosper, contains a supernal mystery, which has already been explained. Yet come and behold, when the Holy One, blessed be He, created the universe, the secret of Zeir Anpin and Nukva, He made the moon and endowed her with the same stature as that of Zeir Anpin. Later He decreased her lights in such a way that she had nothing of her own, save what she received from Zeir Anpin, because she made herself small. She shone from the sun, signified by Zeir Anpin, by the power of the supernal lights in it. So we have another beautiful explanation that talks about the relationship of energies. Like we use why we have a blessing of the moon, for example, in Kabbalah, because we know the moon, it really affects the water in our body. Whether we like it or not, it affects water on the planet. That's why we have highs and the lows. When there is a full moon, the water rises in the ocean. It affects the forces on this planet. So when we're reminded of those forces, we also understand the hierarchy of forces. And why does it say that my servant shall prosper? Because we can be servant of materialism, of physical matter, which is the worst form of slavery. But actually the word servant, that we're serving the higher purpose. We are serving the purpose for which we've been created, to be co-created in this reality. When we are aligned with that, that is what we are reminded of the codename of Yesod, of Yosef. We're adding value to this reality. We're here to add value, not to be parasitical, because there are some consciousness on this planet. They're parasitical, they're here to take.
Yeah.
But we're here to add. So when we're having this consciousness, we're becoming servants of the higher plan for which we've been created.
Then we're connected to endless.
We're connected to the endless. And again,
Purpose.
it's the purpose, exactly.
Fulfillment, everything.
And it cannot be forced on us.
Yeah.
But we can live very many lifetimes of selfishness. Eventually everybody become Israelites eventually, aligned with Source. Everybody become that. But right now we have the opportunity to choose that. So we can align ourselves with the purpose, be aligned with Source, and to use our time on this planet so we can really add value to it. This is what it's about. How we add the value by connecting to that source from where we receive all these great ideas, that amazing inspiration, so we can create even more goodness. And also to have the great abundance from that as well. Absolutely. It's good.
Yeah, from there.
Okay, verse number 57. Okay. לעת ערב, מהי לעת ערב? דא ערב שבת. דאיהו זמנה דאלף שתיתאה לעת ערב כדא, ולעבודתו עדי ערב. וכתיב כי ינטו צללי ערב. In the verse, at the time of the evening in the book of Bereshit, what time is referred to? He replied, it is Shabbat evening, namely Yesod, the era of the 6th millennium. For the 6 days of creation are the secrets of the 6,000 years and the 6th day. Shabbat evening corresponds to the 6th millennium, to which day resurrection will occur. In the phrase, at the time of the evening, why say time? It should have said at the evening. He answers, it conveys the meaning of and do his labor until the evening, from the book of Tehillim. And for the shadows of the evening are lengthened. These verses are the secrets of the judgments revealed during the evening, at the time of the evening. Also alludes to the secret of Yesod, which the servant has mended. So we spoke about that we live in a time frame of 7,000, a cycle of 7,000 years. So when we talk about the 7 days of the week, each day of the week, it represents 1,000 years. Okay? Now we know that in Kabbalah we are in the year 5,777. Okay? So if you look on those in this timeline 1,000, we're here. We're actually on the afternoon of Shabbat. We are right now in the time, if you compare to the days of the week, we are in the era of Yesod. Okay, we are in the, it's good smell.
Very good place, actually,
Yeah.
being there. Yeah, the smell is great.
So we're just about,
We'll get into it.
yeah. So when we are on the year 5,777, that's what the verse is teaching us, a tremendous secret. We are about to enter the evening of Shabbat, which is going to happen in 223 years.
So we're gonna be here in 250 years.
We
right?
could.
At least.
We could.
Well, that's the.
But
that's
here's the
goal,
thing that
if can
we,
have-
I mean, this
no,
is
no, I'm staying here.
the shift of energy.
Not
will,
leaving.
the shift of energy will happen regardless, but we can bring it right now. We
Well,
can bring
yes,
that energy right now
That's the beauty.
if we use the consciousness of connecting to Yesod.
Yes.
So that's why the teaching of Kabbalah is right now more prominent, because they talk about the shadows get lengthened towards the evening, because also the forces of darkness are also getting stronger. Okay?
So what's the teachings of your son?
The Zohar, to connect to the energy of the Zohar. Because we cannot rely, like, let's say, I want to be safe in this time right now, so I'm just going to invest more money in stocks, and I'm just going to drink a lot of green juices, and I'm just going to be good, and I'm just going to stay living in some eco community, and I'm good, sustainable and everything. No, it's not. What we learned, that the sustenance that we are really talking about is sustenance to higher realms. It talks about sustenance of wisdom, because with wisdom you can draw energy, and the energy is manifested in many different areas of your life. But the most important tools for that I was talking about, the number of 137, is the Kabbalah. Kabbalah is that connection to the endless.
So we actually don't we need to wait 250 years? We can bring this now.
Exactly.
As a group. We have to have some certain group. So it's
Working on
about
lives.
consciousness. That means in Kabbalah everything is possible. Even if it's written that some disaster is coming,
Mhm.
we can say no
Exactly.
and take some actions.
Well, first
And
of all,
prevent
who
it.
created disaster from the first place?
We did.
Yeah. So, first of all, the more people are connected to this wisdom of Kabbalah, the more we can connect to those endless realms of energy, of possibilities, of abilities. The more of us do that, the more we can affect positive change on this planet. Because if we've been programmed to believe that there's so much we can do in our lives because there's that, you know, we are from this family, this is our lineage, it's in your genes, everybody in our family got this disease or that disease, that's it. That's a very harsh disconnection from Yesod to the upper realms. Kabbalah says forget everything you know, forget everything you know. There is no limit for how much you can draw. There is no limit. That's why the 100 number 37 numerical value of Kabbalah is that the connection to those upper realms, the 7, the 3, and the 1.
Yeah.
How we do that with this? Keep studying, because once you start to study Kabbalah, you realize, like Morpheus says in the Matrix, I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole can go.
Yeah,
there is no end.
No end.
There is no end.
And that's the beauty, if you have a big desire.
If you have the big desire, because Zohar is one system. Then we have the teachings of the 10 luminous emanations, Talmud and Sefirot. We teach that only in Hebrew. We cannot teach that in English. It's very hard to teach it in English.
Good.
We need a group for that. It's very, very advanced.
Please, a group.
It's
We have a group.
it's this is the study, like you have to know Hebrew, Talmud and Sefirot.
But
The 10 because 10 luminous they can, but it's very hard to understand. It's a lot of Hebrew words. It's all
like
in Hebrew.
gibberish. It's like you're talking like
Talmud and Sefirot, actually, you dive deeper. You really you break down the connection of those realms, and it actually doesn't deal with physical reality at all.
not
The
exactly.
Esel Sefirot is beyond physical. You don't even deal with physical reality.
No.
Zohar, you still have that connection between the physicality to the upper worlds. It's about that. Esel Sefirot is beyond that. It's
That's
like
good. We're getting stronger in Zohar,
So-
then we can get to the...
so. Why I'm saying that, because the teaching is endless. There is no end how much you can climb on the ladder of that wisdom. So it's all about us to keep reminding ourselves to expand our vessel, to desire to learn more.
Yes.
Because
The reality is different when you study this. I mean, my week is different when I study Zohar. Totally different.
once you get into this teaching, your reality, it cannot look the same way anymore. You cannot. You start, first of all, they teach you like you choose your parents in Kabbalah. So some of us, maybe before we study Kabbalah, say, oh, my family, my parents, da. Then you realize that you are choosing your family from a conscious choice. So you're not a victim anymore, which means you are a creator. So you are a completely different realm right now. Then you start to have tools to be very effective co-creator in this reality, from this realization.
10 more
Let's move forward. 10 more minutes. Okay. Anybody have questions? No? Okay.
No? There are some comments, but no questions.
What's the comment?
Oh, so many other.
Like one.
Cocoon.
A what?
Cocoon.
The movie Cocoon, that's
That's
Brian Grazer. Yeah.
profound.
Great movies. Now he's producing great movies. Yeah, he's a great producer. So it's an example of somebody is not only reached a very high level of success in Hollywood, but actually he creates some very high quality content. So it's a great example.
The body was designed to be in motion. Palula, hi, I'm watching from home.
All right, let's continue. Verse number 69. Okay. והוא נער בגין דלה מתפרשין לעלמין צדיק וצדק. כחדה אינון, כמה דאיהי התקריאת בשמה דדחורה. הכי נמי התקרא איהו, בשמה דילה דכתיב והוא נער. And the lad is a nar, it's a code name in Hebrew. Means that because their union is never broken, the righteous, which is Yesod, which is the energy of Yesod, of Yosef, the righteous, and righteousness, which is the Nukva, are constantly together. The Nukva is described with the same attributes as the male, with the addition of the female suffix. For example, he is wise, wise in Hebrew is Chacham, and she is wisdom, Chokhmah. Okay? Chacham, Chokhmah, wise and wisdom. One is male, one is female tense. In Hebrew, you have those two different tenses. Okay? He is mighty, she is might. He is a king, she is a kingdom. Melech v'malka. Okay? And the male is described with the same attributes as the nukva, as it is written. And the lad in Hebrew now is the nukva, it's called na'ara. So is Yesod called Nar. So what we learned that there's a very deep and intimate connection between the realms, between the realm of physicality and the realm of the funnel that connects us to the upper worlds. The relationship, like I showed on the example of Shabbat, is very intimate connection. So we can, pass on Shabbat and really not use the opportunity to recharge. But once you understand that the connection is so intimate, why not tap into this force? And by the way, when you add 6 and 7 together, what do we have?
10, 1.
No, 6 and 7?
Oh, 6 and 7.
13.
13.
13 is echad, is ahava.
Ahava,
Yeah.
love.
So the union between the
It's
physicality
soulmates.
and the upper worlds is a union of love.
Soulmates.
So we understand it is connection, because
Yeah,
when we light those
thank
2 candles of Shabbat, we're celebrating our union with Source. We are the physical vessel and Source, and us together we're one. That's why it's 13. 6 plus 7 is 13. And by the way, if you add all the numbers of the week, the first day, the second, what number do we have? 28. 28 is koach, is power. So if you add 6 and 7, it's 28.
8 and 2, it's 10. 1.
So altogether, I counted already. Trust me.
No, actually, I do. I know. I know you do homeworks.
2 plus 8, 10.
Anybody have questions? No, no questions.
Thank
Okay,
you,
let's go.
Drew.
We have a few more minutes.
Love from Santa Fe.
From where?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Okay.
Yeah, hey brother.
Who is this?
Hey, Drew. Hi,
Drew.
Drew.
Oh, hey, Drew. Okay, verses number 83. תחזה, כל נביאי דעלמה, כולהו ינקי מסתרה חדה, מגוטרן דרגין ידיען, ואינון דרגין הבו התחזיין בגו אספקלריה, דלה נהרה. דכתיב, במראה אליו התוודה, מהי הוא מראה, כמה דהתמר חיזו דכל גוונין, התחזיין בגבה. ודהי אספקלריה דלה נהרה, בחלום אדבר בו. דהו חד משיטין בנבואה, כמה דהוקמוה ואיהו דרגה שתיתאה, מההו דרגה דנבואה, ואיהו דרגה דגבריאל דממנה על חלמה והיתמר. Translation. Come and behold, the prophets in the world are all nourished from one aspect, from 2 known grades, Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod are here. Netzach and Hod. So when it says that the prophets are nourished from those sources of energy, okay? From those 2. Netzach and Hod. Which are seen within the mirror, in Hebrew it's called mar'ah, that has no reflection, which is the nukva. As it is written, I, Hashem, make myself known to him or her in a vision. In Hebrew it's mar'eh. The Hebrew word for a vision is mar'eh, comes from the word mar'ah, which means a mirror. Okay? This is the mirror that reflects all the colors, namely white, red, and green, which represent the 3 columns of Zeir Anpin. The red is the left column, the white is right column, and green is the middle column, which represent the 3 columns. It is known as the doll mirror. The phrase, and speak to him in a dream, refers to the 60th part of prophecy. It has been explained, it is Gabriel's grade, the 6th grade beneath the grade of prophecy, who supervises dreams. Now, why we talk about dreams? Because Yosef was a master of dreams. You know that in Egypt, in ancient Egypt culture, Egyptians had the art of dreaming. They were very powerful artists, or I would say like scientists, or even masters of the art of dreaming. It's a very evolved ancient art. Yosef had the abilities to maneuver in this reality. That's basically what took him out of the jail, because he could decipher the dreams of the Pharaoh. And nobody from Pharaoh's advisors could understand. And Yosef, he saw exactly what's the meaning. Because of that, he was pulled out. We're going to study that next week.
The cows and stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a next week question.
Yes. Miketz, because the ability to decipher dream is very high ability, but we want to understand like how it works. Okay, let's continue. תחזה כל חלמה דאיהו כדקה יאות, מהי דרגה כעתיה. ועל דלת לך חלמה, דלה יתערבון ימי מילין כדיבין, כמה דאו כמנה, ובגין כך מיני הוא קשות, ומיני הוא כדיוון, ולת לך חלמה, דלה ית בי מהי גיסה ומהי גיסה. Come and behold, every well-formed dream proceeds from that grade of the angel Gabriel. Because it is from an angel, every dream includes some lies. Therefore, parts of dreams are true and parts are false. No dream is without both. So what we learn is like even when we see things in our dreams, we want, what the Zohar is teaching us, we want to learn how to decipher dreams more effectively. And the more we engage in this wisdom, we can tap into the realms of the unknown with better tools. So we can experience those dreams and get the information that will bring us more value into what we call our waking life. Okay? Let's continue. 89 and 90. וכמה דרגין על דרגין ברזה דחלמה, כולהו ברזה דחוכמתה. ותחזה חלום דרגה חדה, מראה דרגה חדה, נבואה דרגה חדה, וכולהו דרגין לדרגין, אילן על אילן. How many grades are in the secret of the dream? In the secret of wisdom, come and behold. A dream is one grade. So in Hebrew, a dream is called chalom. So there's one grade. Huh?
Grade. What is
Level. Grade is darga. So we talk about 3 different grades. So we have the grade. So this is the lowest one, is a dream. And then we have 3. Okay, let's continue. So the dream is one grade. Vision is the next one. Vision. Chizayon. So the dream is the lowest one. Next one is vision. Chizayon in Hebrew. And the prophecy is the third one. Prophecy. So our ability to connect to those realms, imagine having the ability to see beyond. This is what we're talking about when we establish that connection through the Yesod. Our ability to connect to the realms is not just when we're awake, but also when we're asleep. So when we go to sleep and we travel in other dimensions, we can really attain a lot of information. Like Mozart would wake up in the morning with a whole symphony in his head. Boom, just from sleeping. What he would do, he would travel into those endless realms of creativity and he would draw this information because everything exists already.
Yeah.
We're not inventing anything new. That's what he says. There is nothing new under the sun.
Painter can do the same. Any artist.
The same thing.
Yeah.
We can draw that information in our dream state when we meditate, etc. So the purpose of studying those tools is to allow us those higher abilities, not just to dream, but to vision, to have the vision, to have also the prophecy. So we talk about those 3 levels. ויחלום יוסף חלום, ויגד לאחיו, ויוסיפו עוד שנוא אותו, על חלומותיו מהכה, דלה מבאי לי, לברנש למימר חלמי, בר להוא ברנש דרחם לי, ואי לאו אי הוא גרם לי, דאי ההוא חלמה, מתהפך לגוונה אחרה, אי הוא גרם לסלקה. Translation. And Joseph dreamt a dream, and told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. From this we learn that a man or woman should tell their dreams only to someone who loves them. If the listener does not love them, they shall bring evil upon them. For if the dream changes, he is the reason that the true meaning of the dream is not fulfilled, because of his incorrect interpretation. So we're giving you a very, very powerful tip. If you have a dream, just share with a person that loves you. If you're not sure, just don't tell your dreams to anybody. Okay? Because the person who deciphers your dream can affect its fulfillment. Okay? Even more so when you have some kind of business ideas, you have some plan to do, sometimes it's better not to share with anybody. Just share it with a vessel that can really contain and appreciate what you're telling them. So the dream is very valuable. So sometimes,
dream.
huh?
Dream, just also dream that you want to,
Like
not just
dream,
when you
vision,
sleep,
or prophecies.
vision,
Like
creation.
huh?
Yeah.
What did you say, Meryl?
No, I was
Yeah.
agreeing with her.
So let's continue. I think we're pretty much done for today. We read
Yeah,
number
so many
19.
times people, I had the dreams calling to friends, and then somebody can just really destroy that dream for bad. And because subconscious mind is so strong, we can really, if we listen to negative interpretations, that's going to be
Well, more than that, if it's like a dream that you have or vision that becomes a vision to create something, and you tell it to the wrong people, not the wrong people, but like people that might
Are not in your favor.
snap it and do it
destroy it.
before you if you're
Yeah.
slow or whatever. Steal it.
Yeah.
Steal your idea and.
Yeah. So we want to be very conscious with who we share. Because our connection through the Sephirah of Yosef, of Yesod, we can draw a lot of beauty, sustenance, wisdom, and goodness that not always, it's not to be shown. They're always with everybody we come across the path.
Yeah.
So when we share those things, we want to be conscious with who we share those things.
Yeah.
Okay?
What side down?
Exactly.
Yes,
So
that's-
thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We're gonna have this video available on my Facebook feed,
and YouTube too.
and also on our page, Mount Shasta ZOHAR. And also we have a Facebook, a YouTube channel, Mount Shasta ZOHAR. Welcome to leave comments and subscribe, and also you can leave a donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Baruch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.